Medicare. These are the low-hanging fruit that this present administration and this Congress should have attacked first instead of putting more onto the plate and now saying that they want to take care of the deficit spending after the fact. The horse is already outside the barn. Now they're trying to close the doors. We need some real changes in Washington. We need a Congress that is going to say enough of the deficit spending. If the tax dollars aren't there, then the bill doesn't get passed.
Well, I'll accept what President Obama says, that he wants to cut discretionary spending, and I'll raise him one. How about we cut all government hiring? There's probably not a person in this room that hasn't been touched by downsizing and layoffs, and their companies are finding ways to do more with less people. Right now, there are more people in government employ than in goods-producing jobs in the United States, and that's wrong. The government continues to grow. It is the only sector of our economy that's growing right now. So what I propose is a hiring freeze. We've got people in the government that are being idle, not being fully utilized. Let's put a freeze with exception of everything but defense and security. So if there's a need in another department and you've got a person that's idle, move them over. Give an opportunity to work in another department. And for those people, what we'll do is we'll live up to the commitments that we made for them, for their pension, for their salary, for their retirement, for the health care. I'm telling you what, people in federal government, their average salary is $73,000. Our average salary is around $43,000. They have fully funded pensions. We're doing 401ks. They have Cadillac health care plans. We're paying for our own plans. So through attrition, as we get that number down and we decrease the size of government, when we start to rehire, we'll bring you on, we'll start rehiring again at what the private sector is paying for that same job. They can go ahead and they can start paying for their own retirement and 401k just like you and I. And then go ahead and start paying for the health care benefits. We cannot continue to grow our government, especially in the sector of employment where those people are getting over. Because the more people that you have dependent on government, the harder it's going to be for people like us to get in there and stop it. Because they have a vested interest to keep things happening the same way they do in D.C. And that's wrong. So yeah, Mr. Obama, I'll go with you on that first thing, but let's raise the stakes of this game and I'll go you one more. Thank you.
I mentioned in my opening remarks that we have an unsustainable financial model at the federal level. And they're talking about freezing spending now, after they increased federal spending from 2009 to 2010 by 16%. I'm proposing in my plan that I put on my website that we go back to 2009 levels to freeze spending. And that includes congressional salaries as well. This unsustainable financial model has to be attacked in all phases of finance at the federal level. And going back to 2009 levels, freezing our spending at that level will be a step in the right direction that will send the right kind of a message to the financial markets and to the people in this country that we are serious at the federal level of getting our spending under control. Once you do that, you can begin to attack the other problems we face with federal budgets. And if you'll take a look at the trade deficit, it's another thing that's a result of the policies that Congress has put forth and the unstable environment in which we're trying to get out of this recovery. We cannot expect businesses and industries to invest in capital goods and expect people to buy cars and homes when they don't know what the future is going to bring with regard to their tax bill. And that's what's happened this past year and a half, and that's why we're headed for a jobless recovery. We will not get out of this recession until we get a stable environment for investment and for expenditures that people can count on what the future is going to bring.
Would you repeat the question? I didn't hear the whole question. It was quite lengthy.
It was a little bit long. We're looking at the National Commission on Fiscal Responsibility is looking at trying to bring down the deficit to 3% of GDP by 2015. Right now it's running about 10%. President Obama has proposed a 3-year freeze on discretionary spending as long as it's not security related. Basically it's covering everything but defense, homeland security, veterans programs, and entitlements. Is that a freeze? Is that something you agree with, or should cuts go deeper?
Well, I think that I have pretty much of a problem listening to anything that President Obama says and taking it seriously. it's politician speak. In my business, there's an old saying, you know, how you going to eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. We've got such an overwhelming deficit to tiptoe around it and tap dance and think that this is some kind of a 48-hour loop. We're wrong. It's going to take a really strong stomach to do the things that need to be done. And it's going to have to be coming from people who have never been there before and are going to make decisions based on not getting reelected, but doing what's right for the country. And I think we've all watched this for too long, way too long. And when I hear these things about debates over what we're going to do, I think that if there's going to be any debate at all, it should be about the spending. There's never any talk about what we're going to cut. Now, this is a mini program to cut a little bit out. That won't handle it. But what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to make cuts in programs that people who are allowed to vote but don't have any skin in the game benefit from. Now, if you're in there for the long term, I'm telling you right now, you're not going to make that decision. But if you get a real person in there that knows what it's like to have to pay back debt and pay it out of their own money and not somebody else's, then you're going to get a decision that needs to come there. So I would like to see a real lively debate and not some politician telling me they're going to look at trying to cut it by 3%. No. Let's talk about the real thing. Let's talk about the deficit that you guys continue to keep building. I could not run my business the way these people run the government. And for them now to come in, and they're going to come in with new regulations to tell us how to do it, I don't think I want to put the keys in that kid's hands. We got like a 3-year-old running the highest powered locomotive in the world, and it's running too fast, and it's going down the wrong track. So send the real people, let them make the real decisions, make the decisions that are tough decisions, and let them make decisions that represent you, your core values, and you'll see this stuff come down. Thank you.
I do want to remind the audience, there was an applause earlier. We're going to hold applauses until the closing statements. I think we should just save our time.
I thought that was okay, Mike. Professor Shea,
he is Irish, so
the average have to work together.
Well, I don't know, what is it, a minuscule part of the budget that he is freezing, and then he passes a bill that costs $2.4 trillion. They say $1 trillion, but they lied. It is $2.4 trillion. They left out a bunch of stuff out of that healthcare bill that has to be paid for by you and me in our tax money. So freezing isn't going to do it, not the non-discretionary things. Yeah, we can do that, but we're going to have to really tackle the big items. Now, I have a background as a CPA. That means we audit companies. And I've audited Fortune 500 companies, and I've audited minuscule mom and pop little places. So, we need to audit the federal government. We need to audit these bureaucracies. We need to audit each and every department in the government. And we can save a lot of money. Because as a doctor, I've got one department telling me one thing, and I have another department telling me another thing. How do you know what to do? So, we figure all that out. We could probably decrease the government by quite a bit, just by auditing and getting out the inefficiencies. Now, I know that's not going to balance the budget, but we also need, it's a very complicated thing. All this stuff is interrelated, as you're going to find out. We need to reform our tax code. I'm really moving more and more toward the fair tax. I'm studying it more and more all the time. It really has a way, it fixes the Social Security problem and the Medicare problem. And we probably don't have time to go into all that now. Maybe we'll have time to talk about that more later. But we are the greatest country in the world, and our people are the most productive in the world. We can pull ourselves out of this debt if we set our minds to it. Thank you.
I do agree that we need to have a freeze, but that's not anywhere near enough. As I said in my opening statement, I've seen a lot of my clients over the last 2 years that have had to let employees go. They've cut wages significantly. They've cut